Welcome back to gaelicfantv. It is the review show. We're going to be taking a look back at all the weekend's club championship action. Certainly a lot of big results, a lot of big games, a lot of big storylines, and everything else really to go with it. Some absolutely cracking games, cracking storylines. And I've got Matthew Hurley here alongside me to review the weekend's club championship action. We're going to be looking back at the weekend games in hurling and in football, albeit I think maybe the hurling championship action this weekend definitely probably more so the talking point. So Matthew, I suppose we're nearly halfway through the provincial club championships and everything else. I mean, we're getting to the stage now where we can see a proper pathway as to who is not only going to come through the provincial club championships, but possibly even make a good stab at an All-Ireland as well.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, thanks for having me on again, Aaron. Yeah, it's kind of a weird situation for myself in the doing stats for Sarsfield's the Munster finalists this year, but thoroughly enjoying it. Delighted for players that they got to the Munster final. Obviously, like Ballygunner are going to be a tough opposition for them, I'd imagine. They battered a lot more Castletown yesterday. Only seen bits of the highlights, but they were absolutely superb. And I suppose Thomastown going out was a bit of a shock in Leinster. And then you had the Ulster game, which I watched on Saturday night, which was an entertaining game of hurling, and it is really, really good in terms of promoting the game of hurling up in Ulster. And hopefully the likes of Derry could really take that game on as a bit of a confidence booster on towards their Christy Ring campaign next season. Because like if Derry produced that kind of a performance against, say, like coming down next year into the Christy Ring or the likes of Meath, and then you have London there as well, I think Derry have a real chance if they keep the momentum going from the Slaughtneil train. They have the potential of winning a Christy Ring Cup by going up through the grades. So it's important to see how Derry grasp that club form and take it into the All-Ireland series. But yeah, a lot to talk about this weekend and looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we certainly have a lot to break down. I suppose, look, we'll start with the action that took place in the Leinster Club Hurling Championship, because there were some big results obviously in here, and I think no doubt the standout result was Castletown Geoghan of Westmeath, who beat Thomastown of Kilkenny. The Westmeath champions run now 11-point winners in the end. Quite an extraordinary story really when you look at Thomastown, obviously intermediate All-Ireland winners last year, beat obviously Ballyhale Shamrocks as well. A lot of people had them as heavy favourites, but in the end it was Castletown Geoghan who ran out comfortable 11-point winners in the end. Interesting enough, like Thomastown were leading by a point at half time, but some win this for the Westmeath champions. Outscored Thomastown 113-4 in the second half. So like extraordinary stuff here.
Yeah, brilliant result for them. And it's an astonishing stat in its own right. A few things. Niall O'Brien scored 113 and Thomastown scored 114 overall. So Niall O'Brien nearly levelled it on his own there, which was an outstanding tally from himself, obviously. And this is Kilkenny's club's biggest defeat in the senior championship since 1997. And who would have thought it'd be for the Westmeath champions? It's probably one of the shocks of the season, Aaron, and it's ironic to think about that in that way because Thomastown were probably the shock club of the year up until this point. They beat Ballyhale Shamrocks, they beat O'Loughlin Gales, they beat Munlavat, they beat everybody in the Kilkenny championship that was posed a threat to them. And the one team that you'd expect them to beat, they lose. And it's just so unreal in its own right that Castletown won this game. And to be honest, like I was looking just before the start of the Fecal game yesterday in the tunnel area, I was looking at the score lines. I looked at the Castletown and Thomastown score. I honestly thought it was a typo. I thought that this was some sort of error. Thomastown were going to win this game, but like fair play to Castletown. It's a magnificent victory. But I mentioned this on Seamus' podcast last night. It's almost like a situation. I don't know, did you hear Eamon Dunphy's comments after the Ireland-Germany game in soccer a few years ago in 2015? Saying that Germany went in as with the mindset of being world champions, and they went into the Aviva with a sort of a cockiness, and it was kind of hard to flick a switch. And that's what Eamon Dunphy said. It's hard to switch a button after that. If as soon as you're in a battle after that, the underdogs could run all over you once that point hits. I wonder, did that hit Thomastown yesterday? Did they go into the game a bit overconfident? And they did not expect as much from Castletown. And to be honest, look, when you looked at it, they beat Ballyhale, they beat O'Loughlin Gales, they beat the main teams in Kilkenny. Of course, you're coming up against the Westmeath champions, and of course, you think we have this in the bag. But as soon as as everybody knows at the club championship, you can't go in with that mindset. I just wonder, did some of the Thomastown players come in with that kind of a attitude yesterday? I obviously didn't watch the game now, but it seems like that way, because to lose by that amount, not just to lose the game, but to lose by 11 points, it's a magnificent score from a Castletown point of view. But for Thomastown, questions have to be asked. There's no doubt about that, because they would have been probably one of the All-Ireland favourites, other than the likes of Loughrea or Ballygunner or Lockmore Castletown before the ball was even thrown in. And they lose to a team, let's be honest, that were beaten pillar to post by everybody in Leinster down through the years. The Westmeath champions, and Castletown have been consistent Westmeath champions, but they have been beaten by cricket scores down through the years. It's just amazing to think that Thomastown kind of allowed them to flourish and produce a brilliant performance. I'll tell you, it will be interesting now to see how Kilcormac-Callaghy get on against Castletown next week, because if Kilcormac-Callaghy put up a score on them, there'd be huge questions asked about Thomastown and this performance in general.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was a massive shock, and as you said, nobody really would have seen it coming. But at the same time, like, this definitely isn't the first time we've saw a team sort of break, sort of come from out of nowhere in a very competitive club championship to then go into the Leinster series and at the first attempt, like, ball flat on their face. Like, we have seen this happen numerous times down the years in the Leinster Club Football Championship and in the Leinster Club Hurling Championship. And we've saw it in the Munster Club Hurling Championship as well. So I suppose, like, the fact that Thomastown, like, it was such a it was some feat to obviously come through what they did in Kilkenny, as you said, to beat Ballyhale Shamrocks, to beat O'Loughlin Gales. You're talking about beating, the All-Ireland runners-up from last year, beating one of the greatest club teams of all time in Ballyhale Shamrocks. I'm sure there were some celebrations. I'm sure there were some days in the pub. I'm sure there were some Monday clubs, Tuesday clubs, all this crack. And like, in some ways, it probably has maybe caught up with them. And I suppose at the first time, or I suppose as well, like, it is their first time, obviously, for any of these group of players to have played in an All-Ireland club championship at senior level anyway. I know they've done it at intermediate, but it is different gravy altogether. And maybe after being so strong in Kilkenny, having given so much, maybe it was a case of a bit of a burnout.
You could say that argument, but is there a case as well that they dropped the ball? It is amazing to think that they beat Ballyhale and they beat O'Loughlin Gales, and not just beat O'Loughlin Gales in the Kilkenny final, they absolutely smashed them in the Kilkenny final. And there was about 2 or 3 weeks between the O'Loughlin Gales game and this game. So could you really say that burnout was a big thing in this? And considering the kind of the close nature that is the Kilkenny Championship in general, like, it's mostly a league championship, which I found out this year. Then it goes into a knockout round, then a quarter-final, then a semi-final, then a final. Some clubs, including Thomastown and O'Loughlin Gales in general, would have had 3 games in the championship this year, and the rest would have been league. Kilkenny then went out by their usual standards in the All-Ireland this year as well. The All-Ireland intermediate final against Castletown was back in January, so I don't think that's an excuse either. And they had 2 or 3 weeks to prepare for this against, with the greatest of respect, Aaron, it's the Westmeath champions, who I know Castletown, they played brilliant yesterday. Hats off them. But they have been beaten by pillar to post by nearly every Leinster team down through the years. And it's just surprising to see that it's the Kilkenny champions are the ones to fall to them. And I just wonder, I think it sniffs more of a team that kind of dropped the ball, and they had kind of a mindset going into the game that they were going to win this game because they beat O'Loughlin Gales, because they beat Ballyhale Shamrocks. We'll go easy for the first few minutes and see where it takes us. So I think that was kind of the mindset going into it. But as soon as Castletown go close to them, as soon as it gets tight at halftime, I'm sure they had sending off as well, correct me if I'm wrong now, Aaron, at the start of the second half. But as soon as when that happened, they were still only a point ahead. The game was still in the melting pot. So could you really use that as an excuse either? Probably not. Because at that stage, even with 15 v 15 men on the field, a lot of punters would have said Thomastown would have beat this team Castletown by 5+ at least. So I don't think that's kind of an excuse to say that. I think, honestly, I don't think it was burnout, Aaron, simply. I think it was just the players dropping the ball. I think maybe a mindset going into the game that it might be an easy one for them. It happens. It does happen to club players. It does happen to Kilkenny champions. Like, it happens in the Munster Football Championship a few years ago. Nemo Rangers against Clonmel Commercials. Nemo were on the top of the world. They beat the Bars. They beat everybody in Cork. And then they lose to Clonmel Commercials from Tipperary. Clonmel, funnily enough, then lose to Newcastle West after they were on top of the world. It does happen. And I think it happened to Thomastown yesterday. This kind of a freak performance. It happens. I think it did happen to the Kilkenny champions yesterday.
Yeah. Like, it's it was some shock, in fairness, for them to lose in the way that they did. And yeah, John Joe Farrell was sent off right at the start of the second half. And as you said, they were a point up at that stage. I think it was 110-12. And then from then on in, 113 to 4 points for Castletown Geoghan. So you can understand them like kicking on and being the better side, having the man advantage, but to win that comfortably against a very good side as well, like, that's some, it's some gap, in fairness. But yeah, some win for Castletown Geoghan. Don't want to take too much away from them. Look, I think going up against Kilcormac in the next game, I think Kilcormac, to be fair, given some of the players that they have, and we'll get onto them in a moment, they probably will be in some ways the favourites for that game, even despite Castletown Geoghan winning. But look, it will be interesting to see, obviously, what happens there. Another game in the championship, in the Leinster Championship, was Na Fianna. They had a very commanding and convincing win, 320-115 versus Clock Ballacalla. I did watch this game, and I have to say, like, Na Fianna are looking very, very good at the moment. I mean, they blew so many teams away in Dublin. Like, they look like that type of team everyone expected Na Fianna to be, 3-4 years ago, and it's taken them a while to probably hit this level. They obviously got a taste for it last year, obviously got to the Leinster final, fell short, obviously, to O'Loughlin Gales. But they are looking very, very good. And especially with Thomastown, obviously, now being knocked out, like, I think Na Fianna will be licking their lips at winning this Leinster Championship. And this was a very, very strong performance from them.
Brilliant performance. They have been strong throughout the championship, and the aspect that pleases me most about Na Fianna, they have Donald Burke back at the team, but he isn't their main scorer. Their main scorers are the likes of Colin Curry and Andrew James and Murphy. That's the most impressive thing about this Na Fianna team. For a club side, they have a lot of players around the field that are match winners. And it's not just Burke, it's not just Colin Curry, it's not just Andrew James and Murphy, it's Liam Rush at centre back, it's Brian Ryan in midfield. They have players all over the field that can make a difference. And that has probably impressed me about them. And that's a team, unlike Thomastown, that didn't drop the ball. Like, I remember, that's another example, Kilmacud Crokes. They played Clock Ballacalla, funnily enough, a few years ago. They dropped the ball and lost to Clock Ballacalla. Na Fianna didn't have that attitude going into this. They knew what a banana skin Clock Ballacalla could potentially be. And they went into this game full firing, and they got the win in the end. Like, fair play to them for doing that. They'd probably be favourites for Leinster now. But at the same time, St. Martin's are still a tough side. I think what the Wexford County Board have done with the club championship this year has impacted greatly on their club sides. So it'd be interesting to see how St. Martin's come up against Na Fianna now next week, now that they've got the win under the belt against Naas. And then if Na Fianna get to the final, which will probably be against Kilcormac Calahi, it'd be interesting to see that kind of a battle as well between a side that are wristy hurlers in Kilcormac Calahi and a side that have brute strength, and they are brilliant, like, strength all over the pitch, and that's Na Fianna. So it will be an interesting Leinster Championship just to see how it does progress. But I think they are favourites for Leinster, but I think St. Martin's from Wexford next week could still be a banana skin for this Na Fianna team. Not because Na Fianna are performing bad, I think they're performing excellently. I do think St. Martin's are coming kind of into form at the right time, and the fact that the Wexford County Board helped them, in a way, they helped their county champions, I think would suit them as well. So it should be a good game next week.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, it will be a massive, massive test, obviously, taking on St. Martin's, who did beat Naas 115 to 13 points. Rory O'Connor scoring 11 points. Jack O'Connor getting a crucial goal in that game as well. So 115 to 13-point win over Naas. And as you said, I mean, this game in itself could have been a bit of a banana skin for St. Martin's, like Naas, as we've seen in the last couple of seasons. Obviously a very good dual club, obviously, at the moment. But they have laid it on a few teams. They've nearly caused a few shocks and surprises over the last couple of seasons. So this is a big win for St. Martin's. And as you said, in the last couple of seasons, Wexford champions have probably flattered to deceive a little bit going into the Leinster Championship, maybe with the fact that there's obviously been a huge gap between when their championship finishes in comparison to when the All-Ireland series starts. But as you said, it's a lot closer together now, and St. Martin's are reaping the rewards.
And the Wexford County Board deserve a lot of credit, just to give their champions a bit of time in this Leinster Championship, because you see with Naomh Eanna, who won the Wexford Championship last year, they went into the Leinster Championship last year cold, and Kilcormac hit them hard. And I felt like now St. Martin's, with the 2-week gap, that is the perfect gap between that and a game. Like Naas are a good side, and they could easily have been a banana skin, especially at St. Condan's Park, which is a tough, tight venue for any away team to come to. But St. Martin's, they held their nerve, and you have to give them a lot of credit for that. I think Rory O'Connor, he scored, I think it was 3 goals and 79 points at the Wexford Championship. That's 3 goals and 90 points in the club championship this season. Added on to the fact he was the joint second top scorer from play in the All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship for Wexford. Rory O'Connor's had an outstanding year this season, both for club and county. And he's definitely a player that the Fianna have to watch. And it'll be interesting to see who the Fianna actually put on him and who they put on Jack O'Connor as well, and the likes of Darren Codd, who was a decent enough forward in amongst the team as well for St. Martin's. So it will be still a tough game for the Fianna. There's no doubt about that, because of the 2 O'Connors inside. They are lethal forwards, especially Rory. Like 3 goals and 90 points is an exceptional tally for the club championship this season, and he will be rare to go. There's no doubt about that. Naas, look, they gave it their all, and it was a brilliant performance by them, but St. Martin's just got over the line this one. And there'll be a tough test for the Fianna next week, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. They most certainly will. But I do think the Fianna have a massive, massive chance. And I do think with the form and the way that they've been playing, I think, like in my opinion, I do think they are the closest challengers to Ballygunner in terms of their All-Ireland, especially with how good they've been playing, in my opinion. I know maybe you might have a bit different to say about that, with obviously SARS going into the Munster final there, but I think the Fianna have got a serious chance. I really do. But look, we'll see what happens when they do take on St. Martin's. The other game then in Leinster, St. Mullins 112, Kilcormac 117. The boy wonder Adam Screeney playing his part, not for the first time in this game, scoring 4 points. Yeah, Kilcormac, I suppose, when I put up a video on TikTok earlier, and almost everyone who commented very, very confident that Kilcormac are going to come out of Leinster this year. Does seem to be a huge buzz about them. Obviously, a lot of young players, obviously, in that side, very much riding the crest of a wave that we've saw with the Offaly hurlers over the past sort of year or so, obviously last year or this year. But yeah, big win in the end, 5 points. And to be fair to St. Mullins, they have caused a few surprises down the years. So this was a big win for them.
It's almost like the Carlow County Board did the opposite with Wexford. St. Mullins had to wait from August to November for this game, and they had a few challenge games. And to be honest, they lost to Kilcormac by 5 points. If the Carlow County Board had their hurling championship, let's say in October, for argument's sake, St. Mullins might have got closer in this one. They might have. So I think that's a big opportunity missed, and maybe the Carlow County Board could follow the same structure as Wexford do, just to help their club side just a little bit, just push them on a small bit. But St. Mullins did themselves proud given the circumstances in regards to that. Kilcormac are a serious team, and I've said it on my show for quite a few weeks now. It's not just Adam Screeney in the team. They do have exceptional players all over the pitch. They're a very good young side. They won Offaly at a canter this season and last season. They've been the team up and coming. I think they could easily win Leinster. I think they have an ideal situation now, because I think the Fianna, yes, they probably have better players than Kilcormac. Let's call it a spade. But the Fianna would have a tougher task in the Shark Tank against St. Martin's, whereas Kilcormac now that Thomastown lost to Castletown, I think the door's open for them. Like, I think that's a slightly easier draw for them. And they go into the final then refreshed, ready to go. And whereas Nafina would have a game, be off the back of a difficult game for the previous week. And the way the Leinster Championship is going now, the semi-finals are next weekend now, and the finals the weekend after. So it's a quick turnaround for Nafina to come after a tough enough game, I'd imagine, which will be against St. Martin's. So I think Kilcormac will be going into the final if they get past Castletown as they're expected to do. I do think they're going in as in a very, very good light. And I think they could be serious dark horses. Well, Leinster, they're one of the favourites, but I think they could be serious dark horses for the honour, given the draw as well, because the Leinster champions play against Loughrea in the semi-finals. Loughrea are in a situation where they're twiddling their thumbs. They don't know what to do. Do they play a challenge game or what as well? They're kind of in that situation right now. So I think Kilcormac are well capable of taking advantage of that, as are Nafina. So it's opening up wide for every team on that side of the draw, whether it is in Nafina or Kilcormac or at St. Martin's or even a Loughrea. So it should be interesting.
If you had to call it now, who wins Leinster?
I'm going to go for the shock. I'm going to go for Kilcormac. Just because the semi-final, I think, is easier side of the draw, and I think that would suit them going into the final in the next week.
There we go. Dublin is great, says Nafina. Will win Leinster. Yeah, I think us Dublin people have to stick behind the Dublin clubs. And to be fairness to Nafina, I think they, I think they'll do it, in my opinion. I think having been here last season, obviously having gone through Leinster, the only worry would be is that at some time, at different stages throughout the year, Nafina have just blown teams away, and like they probably haven't. Like, I know Kilcormac, as you said, done that obviously in Offaly. Like, they won Offaly an absolute canter. But I do wonder if the going gets tough for Nafina, will they be able to dig themselves out? Because we haven't quite seen them obviously do that in the All Ireland series. But yeah, no, I'll go with Nafina to come through and win. Leinster in Ulster then, as Matthew was saying earlier, it was probably one of the games of the weekend, probably one of the games of the year as well. Slotneil 136, Rory O'Cushendall 326. I mean, where do you start with this one?
See, it is a tough question because you could go with Slotneil's performance, you could go with the state of Derry hurling and what the confidence could be breathing into that. The game itself, which was outstanding, just under 100 shots inside 80 minutes, was an absolute a treat for everybody on Saturday night. And then you look at the performance of I know we're talking about the losing team here, but the performance of Neil McManus was absolutely superb. 3-9 on the night. In normal time, he had 13 shots, converted 12 of them, 92% shot accuracy. And not only that, he got the equalising goal, obviously, on Saturday evening at Slotneil. He did the exact same thing in St. Pat's Portaferry in the Ulster Championship last year. So the guy has a knack for it. Like, it's just outstanding. And I think his phone will be hopping in the next few weeks, because with Conor McCann retiring, there's other players that stepped away because of injury and things like that from Antrim. I think Davy Fitz, and the fact he was at the game as well, I think he'd be on the phone to Neil McManus. I know Neil probably would be thinking that he has the retirement plan. The fact he's on RT as well, he's a very good pundit in his own right. People enjoy listening to him and all that. But I'm sure he'll be an asset for Antrim. He has to be. Like, he's an excellent hurler, and I think he has a lot more to give to that Antrim team as well. But in terms of Slotneil, exceptional performance from them in a team life. Jack Cassidy from midfield really impressed me. He was probably a player I didn't know much about going into the game, but 6 points on the night, 75% shot accuracy from midfield. He was really, really good. Brendan Rodgers at full forward, 7 points overall, and really excelled when the going got tough in extra time as well. I think Shane McGuigan was very good in defence. Is known for his football skills, but he's a decent enough hurler too. So a very good performance from a Slotneil point of view. And I'm sure they'll celebrate this victory. But St. Pat's Portaferry in 2 weeks, you'd have to fancy him to come out the right side of that game against St. Pat's Portaferry. Should be an interesting game. But Slotneil have definitely opened a lot of doors now. But what a game, Aaron. And a lot of people watching it on RT on Saturday night would have been treated to an absolute cracker as well. It was a brilliant game of hurling. And it's up there for Game of the Year. I know you had Clare and Cork at the All-Ireland final back in July, but this game is certainly up there. It was a really good watch. And it's hard to kind of talk about it down to about 2 or 3 minutes. It was a really, really good game of hurling.
Yeah, like you could probably nearly make a podcast on this game alone, to be honest with you. Like there's just so much to break down. But as you said, no, absolutely. Like it was brilliant to have the game on RT. Like in fairness to RT, I think Ulster hurling has been starved down the years. Like if we're being perfectly honest, very rarely ever, Ulster counties very rarely ever get themselves shown on the Sunday game. TG Carr try their best. In fairness, Clubber have obviously been trying their best as well. But look, the game was on TV, and what a game it was to show. Like this was absolutely outstanding, as you said, especially with the fact that I know obviously we've had the rugby on at the weekend, and like nothing else obviously happened. Like there was no Ireland-England game that obviously didn't take place. So like, I mean, to be fair, you had the you had the limelight on Saturday night to watch the hurling. Like I mean, and like some advert for Ulster hurling, some advert for hurling.
Yeah, it really was, and I hope it does push Ulster hurling down if up in the next few seasons, because we know Antrim now with Davy Fitz in charge, they're in the Leinster Championship. It looked fairly comfortable in the last season, beating the likes of Wexford. They have stamped their claim in the Leinster Championship, and they probably don't need as much of the promotion as the likes of Derry do. But Derry, like, they need a lot of boosting here, because like they're in the Christy Ring Cup. They want to go up to the Joe McDonagh Cup really soon as well. And I'm sure the likes of Brendan Rodgers and Shane McGuigan, as much as they're very, very good footballers, they'd want to show that Derry is equally a very passionate hurling county as well. And they produced on Saturday night. It was a really, really good display of hurling. I was kind of worried going into this one, because like it was a lot of pressure that RT gave to us to hurling, just putting them on. It was great for the limelight, obviously, but it kind of had to be a very, very good game of hurling. But boy, did they deliver. It was a really, really good game. And a lot of games down for the weeks, we were thinking, why are they putting this game on? It's an embarrassment to the Gaelic Games Association and things like that. But this game was an exceptional game. It was a great advertisement for Ulster hurling. I'm just hoping that Ulster hurling develops even more now. Not just in Antrim now, but in the likes of Derry, the likes of Down, the likes of Fermanagh, Tyrone, Donegal, all these counties. Hopefully hurling can develop even more. And by the performances of the players on Saturday evening, there's no reason why you can't.
Yeah, and obviously at Brendan Rodgers, like scoring 7 points. I think a lot of people probably forget, he's nearly as good as a hurler as he is a footballer. Some might even say he's a better hurler than he is a footballer. 7 points from him, obviously absolutely outrageous, and arguably the best dual player maybe in the country right now. Some would argue. But look, that Neil McManus goal right at the end of the game. I mean, like when you're watching it, you're kind of thinking like, all right, he's going to obviously try work a pass here. He's going to try work a chance. Then maybe he'll try a 1-2 or something of that nature. But he just goes for it. And like, what is he? He's 25 yards out or something of that nature. I mean, that's like absolutely extraordinary, like, and to have that pinpoint accuracy in that kind of moment as well. And obviously, it's a hat-trick as well. Like, he finishes with 3-9, and as you said, like, I don't know what Davy Fitz must need to do. Like, I think maybe he should camp out his front garden or something between now and the start of the championship or start of the league or something of that nature. But yeah, that was an absolute, like, I mean, goal of the year arguably.
Possibly so, but was a bit of luck in there as well. I'm not to get away from Neil, but there was a bit of deflection on the way to the back of the net. So it's a difficult one. But the thing is, a lot of players you think, wow, what a finish. And what we were thinking kind of that about Neil, I was kind of thinking, even before the 65 was taken to put it initially into the square before that, I was thinking, could he do the same as what he did against Portaferry last year? Because we know the guy's capable of it. So I wasn't really shocked when it did hit the net in general. I was absolutely jumping off my seat, obviously, with the excitement. Like, it was a brilliant end to the game, obviously, and it was a magnificent advertisement for hurling. But at the same time, it was almost like it's not a shock, because Neil is such a good player. He's one of the most underrated players in the country when you think about it. Like, you look at the likes of the stronghold counties, the Kilkennys, the Limericks, the Corks, the Waterfords, the Tips, like, as players. Like, Neil isn't from those esteemed counties. And he's just a really, really good hurler. I don't think many people have seen it down through the years, which is a shame. And we've only seen it now. It's almost like in soccer, Aaron, isn't it? With Wes Houlihan in soccer, we didn't see how good of a player he was until he produced moments of magic at Euro 2016 when he was about 32, 33 years of age. It's the sad reality, but it's almost the same with Neil McManus. We don't actually realise how skillful of a hurler he is until now, that he's retired from Antrim, officially as of now. And we just would love him to come back into hurling. And it's almost like a best of both worlds scenario, isn't it, Aaron? Because he's a very good pundit. He's good at talking about Ulster hurling there as well. And he's an excellent kind of addition to RT. But at the same time, if he goes back into Antrim, that will throw the cat amongst the pigeons with the Leinster Championship next season, and it would boost Antrim's kind of chances in doing well in Leinster next season, especially with Davy Fitz at the helm. So, I don't know, Davy has to do something. As you said, camp outside his front lawn, give him about 10 or 20 calls a day or something like that, spam his messages, do something, just get him back at the Antrim team. And I think Davy would be well entitled to do that in the next few weeks, I'm sure.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say give him about 10 or 20, something else there, something of that nature. But look, we'll move on very, very swiftly anyway into the Munster semi-finals. Ballygunner 126, Lockmore Castletown 116. I suppose for Ballygunner, it was a little bit of a tricky encounter, obviously the last time out for them versus Doon. Although I think that was more about Doon and how well they obviously played just a week after winning the Limerick Championship. But a 10-point win for the Waterford champions. Porrick Mahoney with 9 points. Kevin Mahoney with 1-3. Desi Hutchinson getting on the score sheet as well. Fairly comfortable enough in the end for the Waterford champions.
Yeah, it was comfortable enough even at half-time. When Kevin Mahoney hit the net at the end of that first half, it was almost like that was game over. And Lockmore didn't really have enough about them to get back into the game after this one. And it was just a tough day at the office for Lockmore. And it's funny because I was talking to Seamus during the week about this, and I was saying to him, if they performed the same way as they did against Doon, where they just won narrowly enough in that quarterfinal game in Munster, would they overcome Lockmore? And Seamus said straight away, no, Lockmore would beat them. So I didn't watch this game fully, but I assume, judging by Seamus' comment there, Ballygunner were absolutely superb. They were accurate. They were everything that you'd expect a Ballygunner team to be out of the last 2 seasons. And Lockmore just didn't have any answer. Some people might say it's just worrying for Tipperary hurling, but sometimes you have to put your hands up and just say Ballygunner are just an outstanding team. And they will be hard bet in the final, there's no doubt about that. SARS, as much as I want them to get over the line, it's going to be a hard test for them, and I think the management and the players know that from SAR's point of view as well. So, it's a brilliant win for Ballygunner. A lot more Castletown. It was just a tough day at the office for them. They have to take it on the chin and go again next year. Well, not next year. They have a football game next week against Aero Guinness, so they'll go hell for leather for that, I'm sure. But it's an exceptional performance from Ballygunner, and it's going to take an excellent performance from an opposition to beat this brilliant Ballygunner side.
Yeah, absolutely. And then in the other game, it was Sarsfields 125, Fecal 117. Aaron Moyers there scoring 1-6, so massive win there for Stars. And your stats obviously doing the business and dragging Stars to the Munster final.
Can't take all the credit. No, there is another statistician in the team for Stars, Harry Orman. So a huge shout out to him, and huge shout out to the players. It was a really good performance, as you mentioned there. Aaron Moyers 1-6, and the impressive thing about Aaron, he came back from America at the start of the championship or at the end of the league, and he didn't start the first few games. He was just kind of eased into it, I suppose, by Johnny Crowley and Durbin O'Sullivan, and eventually he's got his starting place, and we've seen what an excellent hurler he is. If he's there off the leash, he's an excellent hurler, and he can finish. There's no doubt about that. Jack O'Connor, to be fair to him, I know he's marked tightly by Adam Hogan yesterday, but he was really, really good with 4 points from play as well. Cathal McCarthy deserves a lot of credit for midfield as well. Killian Murphy was very good in the back line there. Killian Roach was very, very good. You had other good performances: Paul Leopold, Conor Sullivan, Daniel Carney, like so many, main Kean Darcy, like very good performances all over the pitch from Stars. And yeah, it's just brilliant for them. I'm absolutely delighted that they have got to a Munster final. They utterly deserved to win yesterday for the intensity they put in, the performance they put in throughout the full 60 minutes as well. It was a brilliant performance by the lads, and I'm absolutely thrilled for them to get over the line. And it's going to be tough for against Ballygunner in the final, but I'm sure this is Stars' first Munster final in their history. So I'm sure the club will be absolutely delighted. They'll be bouncing, but then they'll go back into serious business in the next few weeks and go full head for leather, I'm sure, for the Ballygunner game. It's going to be a tight game, obviously. And yeah, I'm sure the players and the management would want to get over the line in that game. But I'm just delighted for Johnny, for Dermot, for the players. I'm just delighted that they got over the line in this game, and very good win for Stars. Just delighted to be I'm delighted to kind of be a small cog in this team. I'm just privileged to be in that position, and yeah, delighted that Stars got to the Munster final. Just a word of Fecal as well. Before this game, they won the Clare Championship for the first time since 1988. They deserve a lot of credit for that, to even get to this stage. I'm sure they'll be back. They have some very good hurlers. The likes of Stephen Conway played well yesterday. Oisin Donlan, Adam Hogan very good. Ava Quilligan stuck his penalty really well and produced a number of good saves yesterday. They will be back. I'm sure they will be back. They're a very good side. They're a very seasoned outfit. But it is Stars' day, and just delighted for the players, delighted for the management, and on they go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Massive win, and look, it will be very tough for them against Ballygunner. Make no question about it. But as you said, a very good win, and yeah, hugely looking forward to that Munster final. Looking at some of the weekend's football action, then there probably wasn't a huge amount of talking points, but I think one game that definitely was a talking point, and it probably wasn't even maybe the best game. But looking at the Connacht Club Championship, Coolera Strandhill 9 points, Ballina Stephenites 9 points. Coolera win by penalties, 5-4. It finished on penalties. Noel Murphy scoring 6 points there for the Sligo champions. And yeah, Mayo football in the mud.
Yeah, to be honest, this wasn't much of a surprise, to be honest with you. I know Ballina were probably favourites to win this game and get to the Connacht final, but Mayo football has been, devoid of success in Connacht over the last few seasons, and this game probably showed it as well. And it's a bad light for Mayo football when Ballina, who won the Mayo Championship quite comprehensively against Knockmore in the final, were then beaten by the Sligo champions with the greatest of respect. Noel Murphy scored 6 points for Coolera, a very good performance from him, but it was really, really bad from a Ballina point of view and a Mayo football point of view as well. I don't think they've won a Connacht Championship since, I think, 2016, 2017, and around that time, which is quite frankly embarrassing for Mayo football. It really is. That Roscommon and Galway kind of have the upper stranglehold in Connacht Championships rather than the Mayo champions. So, yeah, it's a really poor result for them. And, yeah, it's going to be a tough winter for Mayo in general as well, because they went out to the qualifiers in the football this season as well. A really, really poor season for them in the inter-county game. And then the club game for their champions be beaten on penalties, yes, granted. But they only scored 9 points inside 80 minutes of football. That's not good enough. It's simple as that. It isn't really good enough to get to a Connacht final. And yeah, it's a tough one for them. As for Coolera, it's a brilliant result for them. It's the second Sligo club in the Connacht final in 3 years. It's an exceptional stat in its own right for the Sligo Championship there in Coolera Strandhill and Tour de Strand. So it's brilliant for them to reach the final, and I'm sure they'll enjoy it in the next 2 weeks. But for Ballina and for Mayo football, it's not good.
Yeah, someone messaged me on Instagram earlier saying that basically what you said, that it wasn't that big of a shock, and this was coming actually from a Mayo fan, and even he was saying that he believes that Sligo football is slowly catching up to Mayo football now. When you look at it, Mayo, they haven't really produced they've obviously got a couple of young players in their side, but I think a lot of them burst on the scene in 2021, 2022, 2020. You look at the last sort of 2 years or so, there isn't a huge amount of players coming through. I know they obviously had a decent minor team there a few seasons ago, but generally speaking, there isn't a huge amount coming through. Whereas you look at Sligo, they're bringing through a lot of young players. You look at their club championship as well; it does seem to be of a higher standard. You would have to say right now. And then as well as that, you look at the Sligo senior team. Push Galway to the pin of their collars, obviously in the Connacht Championship. And look, I still think Mayo are a good bit ahead of Sligo. I'm not saying Sligo are catching up to Mayo like next year or whatever. But what I do think, and I think what this person was who messaged me, is that when you look at the trajectory of Sligo football in comparison to the trajectory of Mayo football, it looks like a bit of a crossroads maybe in some ways, and maybe that's to explain I suppose how poor senior clubs have done in the Connacht Club Championship from Mayo in the last couple of years.
Yeah, and it's poor from the Mayo football standpoint as well. Their clubs are just struggling once they go onto the Connacht stage. Not more were beaten really off the park by Park Pierce a few seasons ago. Ballina last year went out without a whimper really against Corofin. So it's worrying from a Mayo point of view. And added on to the fact as well that their final showpiece last year against Brafey was one of the worst games of football that anybody's ever witnessed. 6 points to 4. That was a final. It probably just shows where Mayo football is at the moment. And the fact that the inter-county team were so reliant on over-reliant in a way on Ryan O'Donoghue this season. He was the top scorer overall, very good for play as well. But they were so over-reliant on him. And they just couldn't get over the line in games. They weren't getting hammered or anything like that, but they just couldn't get over the line. They couldn't get the final details done. And this is a worrying time for Mayo, because you look at Division 1 next year. I know it's switching to the inter-county game now ever so slightly, but you look at Division 1 next season, that's a shark tank in January and February, because you have the likes of Tyrone or the new management now under Malachy O'Rourke with the exuberant young players that they have coming through. Derry, okay, the jury's still out on them. You still have Galway, Kerry, Dublin, Donegal, Armagh. Where are Mayo going to get the wins out of that other than Derry? Honestly. So it's a worrying time for Mayo football, even going into next season. And I think they could even be favourites in going down to Division 1 next season, Division 2 rather next season. So it's a difficult time for Mayo football, for club and county, and it's going to take a while to fix this problem. But it does start with the club. They need their clubs to excel if their county team aren't. And you look at their county team over the last few years. I didn't realise it until last night, but Seamus actually said it on his show to me last night. Mayo and county level in 2022, they got beaten out the gate really by Dublin. In 23, they got beaten out the gate by Dublin. 22, they got beaten probably at arm's length by Kerry. 24, they got knocked out in the qualifiers by Derry against the team that didn't want to be there. Let's be honest, they didn't want to be in Croke Park the next week against Kerry. So you just wonder. You haven't realised it until these results start bounding up and up and up. You only just realised now, rather, that Mayo football is really, really struggling. And it's going to take something special next season for Kevin McStay or the county board to change this. So it's going to be interesting to see what Mayo get on next season. It's going to be a tough year, I believe, looking at the things that happen this year for Mayo next season.
Yeah, no, I would agree as well. I think when you look back at the last few seasons, you never, I suppose post 2021, you never felt like Mayo were a million miles away. Obviously, me and you both predicted them to win the All-Ireland in 2023 after the league, and that was probably a very silly prediction there by the both of us. But generally speaking, they never looked like they were a million miles away. But now they look like, you'd have to say there's probably 5, 6, maybe 7 counties who've surpassed them now. And I do think, winning that elusive All-Ireland, which is what they ultimately want to strive to do, looks about as far away as possibly it ever has over the last sort of, 70 years or so. But look, it is a conversation for another day, in fairness. And you do have to massively credit Coolera, Strandhill and Sligo football for the work that has been done there at the moment. The reward for it will be a final appearance versus Padraig Pearses, who comfortably beat Mohill 13 points to 3, a 10-point win there for the Roscommon champions. And Look, I mean, there are a lot of names being spouted about in terms of an All-Ireland. Scottstown are getting a mention, Coola are getting a mention, but Porrick Pierce's, and especially when you look at Roscommon clubs in the All-Ireland series over the last couple of years, it's almost, like the reverse opposite to Mayo clubs. You would have to say Porrick Pierce's, like, they're motoring along very, very strongly, albeit, look, you would have expected them to brush a Mohill side, a Mohill team aside. Maybe not as comfortably as what we would have expected, though.
I question out of this game, look at the scoreline, its scores and things like that. I question Mole's tactics in this one. They scored 1 point from play according to reports, and they scored 1 point in the second half. Like,
I do think the weather was very bad though at the weekend in the west.
But to be fair, Pierce has scored 13 points, so was it that bad, Aaron?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. So it's no, I just feel like, and a lot of people have been saying that we don't need rule changes, and like it or not, defensive football is the way to go about providing a shock. Mole were the underdogs yesterday. They put defensive football in, they still get hammered. So that didn't work. So what you just kind of go around the question, and I know I'm slightly copying Pat's Ballina ever slightly here. What kind of game do we want here? Do we want a defensive game, or do we want an exciting game of football where it's end-to-end stuff? And it's and I feel like a lot of people in the comment section and things like that have said that defensive football is the way to go about trying to counteract bigger and better oppositions. But it clearly didn't help Mole. They scored 3 points. They got hammered. They played defensive football. It didn't work. So I question Mole's tactics in this one. As for Porrick Pierce, look, they're going along very, very nicely. They're one of the favourites for the All-Ireland for a reason. They are looking extremely good. They look good at the moment, and it's going to take a very, very good team to get over this Porrick Pierce team. Will that be Coolair Stranded? I don't think it will. They'll probably have to wait for a big enough test in the semi-final, whether that be Cool or whether that be RD St. Mary's or St. Norman's. We'll have to see.
Yeah, absolutely. No, very, very comprehensive and comfortable win there from a Cooler perspective. There was one game in Leinster at the weekend because St. Loman's match. The previous weekend was cancelled due to bad weather and everything else. St. Loman's 3-11, Castletown 7 points. TJ Cox there scoring 2-3. Ron O'Toole on the score sheet there as well. Another big win again for St. Loman's. I feel like Leinster, you can look at Coola maybe as the favourites, as you said. You've got RD St. Mary's who are knocking about. St. Loman's are looking very, very good as well here.
They are, and that game against RD St. Mary's next week is probably a battle of the challengers. You'd expect Coola to brush aside Tullamore, the other semi-final, but you look at these two teams, St. Loman's and RD, both of them do have excellent players from their respective counties. Loud players like the likes of the Jacksons, the Geoghans, and all them all play for RD St. Mary's. Then you have Lomans, who've Ronan O'Toole, John Haslin, Sam McCartan, Fodo Irende, TJ Cox, all incredible inter-county players. Well, three of them are anyway, in Sam McCartan, Ronan O'Toole and John Haslin. That's Westmead's best players. So, like, it's going to be a very, very entertaining game, I'd say, next week between the two challengers there. I think Lomans will be happy with this performance, brushing aside Castletown, Liam Mellows. It was going to be an easy enough game anyway, and it was a good win for Lomans, but tougher test to come, especially next week against RD.
Yeah, very, very good win there for St. Loman's. Looking at the Ulster Championship, Clan Aaron 14 points, Newbridge 12 points. Massive win in the end there for Clan Aaron in the end. 2-point win. What were your thoughts on this?
It was last weekend, was it, Aaron?
Last weekend, I think it was. Yeah, was it last weekend? Maybe it was last weekend. What was your thoughts on this game anyway? I mean, they will be playing obviously Scottstown. Or you do obviously have Scottstown in there who are looking very, very strong. But what were your thoughts on this game anyway from the week previous?
Yeah, Clonairon are playing against Gaelicfantv in the semi-final next week. So yeah, it's good. Yeah, I'm sure Clonairon will be confident enough going to the semi-final. Like, it was an interesting game this week. I said all on the Shames channel last week on this game. Newbridge performed brilliantly in this one as underdogs, and yeah, Clonairon march on to the semi-final against Gaelicfantv next week, which should be a very tight encounter, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, look, that very much wraps it up. We do have Scottstown as well, to be fair, to discuss. We've got a big win versus Erin Gales as well. Scottstown, I mean, are they the serious favourites for the All Ireland, do you think?
I think they are, yeah. I was really impressed with them against our Gales. By looking at the scoreline at half time in particular, I think it was 14 points to 3 at half time. And Scottstown really ran road of them. They look a really good side. They look well drilled all over the pitch. And yeah, it's serious battle to win the All Ireland. The one question is, and Fintan O'Toole put up the tweets on what games are live at RTTG Car next weekend. And Scottstown and Kilcoo's on Saturday evening. It's on Ulster GATV. It's not on TGR or RT. Yeah, it's
that's shocking.
It's a bit of a, that is, to be fair, like that's two of the All Ireland favourites, and you're not putting them on TV. It's like, why? Seriously, why? Like, what is the rationale behind this? I think, off the corner of my eye, I think it's Coola and Tullabore that's going to be the game shown on RT on Saturday night. With the greatest of respect to that game, Coola are going to blitz Tullamore. So why are you putting that on? Why aren't you putting on Scottstown and Kilcoo, which is going to be a tight game, full of quality football, full of quality players, all Ireland favourites? What more could you ask for? I think RT did very well to show the Ulster hurling last weekend. It was a brilliant spectacle between Shotney and Royog. Unfortunately, this Saturday coming, I think it's a massive own goal by Radio Television.
Yeah, Gavin says here, just on Mohill Pierces at the same time, defence, it worked out for Roscommon, Kildare and Louth against Dublin, and I hated watching the first half of Pierce's Mohill, but at the same time, would the new rules give Pierce's the chance to batter Mohill? What would be your response to that?
They battered them anyway, so it doesn't make a difference. Pierce's are the better team. Like, you can't just say, like, I'd rather go out in a blaze of glory in it scoring some wonderful scores rather than sitting on your laurels and scoring 1 point from play and 1 point in the second half. Like, isn't that a bit of a pathetic way to go out of the championship? So, no,
it's a hard one to know, really. Like, I think in a game with Porrick Pierce's Mohill, like, I think Porrick Pierce is probably the majority of the time are going to win that game anyway. I think as much as you change the rules and everything else, I don't know if it would have made it more competitive. It's a really hard one to know, and I think, to be honest, until these new rules actually come in, we won't really know whether it does, whether it does actually help or not, or whether it actually makes it worse. But yeah, we'll obviously have to wait and see. Any club moments of the week or anything like that from yourself?
I suppose the club moment of the week has to be Castletown beating Thomastown. Like, it was a brilliant result for them. There's no doubt about that. And yeah, they go marching on. And yeah, it's probably one of the shocks of the year, but be interested to see how they get on against Cormac Callaghy next week.
Yeah, I think my club moment of the week, I don't know if you've seen that own point from the weekend in the game between Abbey Dorney and Cashel King. Cormac's, I think Owen O'Donoghue managed to score it. I mean, that was wild altogether, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I'm sure O'Sheen will not live that down for a few seasons. And even the club or commentators were very, very confused as well early on. So I wonder, did the referee do something? It did. But to be fair, like, all's well ends well. O'Sheen still had a good game. Cashel King Cormac still won it. So I'm sure, I don't think it was his finest minute, I would say, but I think in a few days, I think he'll look back at it and he can laugh. I think he will laugh, because let's be fair, Oisin O'Donoghue, who's an excellent young hurler for Tipperary, mistakes happen, and it's probably one of the most comical moments of the year. There's no doubt about that. But Cashel went on and won the game anyway, so little relevance, but at the same time, it's probably one of the clips of the year, I have to say.
100%. Well, look, anyone who tuned in, do hit the like button and subscribe. Let us know your thoughts on the weekend's club championship action. Make sure to check out Matthew's show as well, the Gaelic Statsman, wherever you get your podcasts. And until the next one, we'll catch you all again soon.